What do you want to talk about today?
Mainly, I wanted to cover the new bus system, some of the new stuff that was going on, changes in Mountain Lion over the last couple of years or so.
Why don't we start by talking about the changes to our bus schedule that took place in January, and we added some midday, what was it, Manny routes 2 and 6, 10 and 4, and we also started running later in the evenings. And I think one of the things that you'll see is we've shown a 6% increase in ridership since January 1st. Actually, it was the 3rd of January when we put the changes into effect, and a lot of people are really happy about that, and they're happy about the fact that we can now run the same schedule all year round. In other words, we used to have a spike schedule where 9 months out of the year we had a lot of service, and then in the summer months we slimmed things down a little bit because school was out, and we could save a little bit of funding by not running the same schedule. We've been able to secure funding to run the same schedule all year round, so I think that's another really strong reason for our increase in ridership. Most recently, we were able to initiate 5 new Gillig buses that are fueled with biodiesel. They're manufactured by the Gillig Corporation and required to run on biodiesel. And we've also secured the funding to run on biodiesel exclusively in our entire fleet. And we got an award to retrofit our other 14 fixed route buses with some catalytic converter exhaust systems with traps in them that will reduce emissions by 14.5 tons over the lifespan of those buses. So those are just a few things that have gone on just since January at Mountain Lion. I don't know, Manny, can you think anything else that has taken place or is on the horizon?
Because it's been a while since you guys have been here, and I'm sure lots happened since the last time you guys have been on.
If it was 2 years ago that we were here, since then we've carried 1.5 million people.
Okay.
That's one thing that's happened.
Okay.
And that's based on our annual ridership of about 725,000 passengers a year.
Okay. Yeah, and one thing I heard is these new Gillig buses are equipped with voice enunciation systems to make it easier for the drivers, and they're fully automated, I heard.
Yeah, why don't you tell them a little bit about that, Manny, would you?
Yeah, they're run up by GPS systems, so they announce the location that they're coming upon. For example, it'll say now approaching South and Higgins. Gives the customers an awareness of where they're at and well in advance of them coming up to their bus stop.
Okay. That's a requirement that we do to meet the Americans with Disability Act. It's something that we've been doing since 1991. It's a lot easier when you have the GPS system in there and you don't have to rely on the operator or the system or the supervisor's, in many cases, interpretation of the law and where it should be announced. You can still, as a passenger, ask to have a specific destination announced when you get there. The other thing that's really important is that when you're at a bus stop that's served by more than one route, for instance, Southgate Mall is served by Route 6, Route 2, and 7. And so if a bus pulls up and you're not sure which bus it is, and maybe your eyesight's not as good as it was at one time, maybe you're visually impaired, that bus will announce this is the Route 7 and that it's inbound to downtown, so that the passenger that's waiting in a shelter there knows. So it's a real asset to our system. It helps the passenger feel more comfortable. One of the big things that increases choice riders or people that choose to use our system is their comfort level on the bus, and we're trying to do everything we can to make people comfortable as they use our system.
Do you guys think you'll be implementing this system possibly into one of the smaller Orion 2s sometime in the future, or?
Based on the cost of that specific, it's called the talking bus, that system, I seriously doubt that we'll retrofit those Orion 2s with that passenger amenity, because they're scheduled to go out of service in about 2 years to 2.5 years, and it wouldn't make sense to invest that amount of revenue in a piece of equipment that you're going to outsource here in a couple of years.
Do you think
new buses certainly will be equipped with
Do you think Mountain Lion may continue with the Orion 2 buses, or do you think they're going to do something new after these ones retire?
Well, I can tell you that we won't be getting any more Orion 2s, mainly because the bus went out of production about 3 years ago, and Orion no longer makes that model. It hasn't been as strong a piece of equipment as they anticipated it to be. The maintenance costs on it are probably 15 to 20% higher than they are in some of our other buses in our fleet. So we'll probably steer away from that. Actually, I think as we look into the future, we're looking at a hybrid electric diesel and the possibility of trying to secure a federal grant, which is now out there through the Reauthorization Act of Safety, Lou, and you can get a grant if if you're lucky, and you can produce a 90% federal, 10% local match grant to purchase hybrid electric diesel buses, and there is a possibility that they'll even do a 100% federal amount on a piece of equipment like that. So we'd be looking at a low floor bus similar to our 35-foot buses, only with a low floor, a flat floor where you use a ramp, and then you go into the back of the bus, and there's 2 steps up to a higher part of the bus that sits over the differential and the rear part of the bus, the engine area and such.
Okay.
And the emissions, of course, with the hybrid diesel electric go even further down than they do with the traps and running on the B20 or the biodiesel that we currently do.
Now I noticed one thing on Mountain Line buses that you guys have announced recently is you guys are considering increasing the paratransit fees from $1 to $1.50.
The board of directors and staff have looked closely at our budget over the last few years. Our paratransit costs have increased remarkably faster, as has the demand compared to fixed route. We're carrying about 2,500 paratransit passengers a month now. 10 years ago, we were carrying 700 or 800. It's a need in the community that's growing. There's no question about it, but we've got to find a way to come up with a little bit of additional match money to fund the service. There hasn't been an increase in our paratransit fare since 1994.
Okay.
Legally, we are allowed to charge up to 2 times the amount of a fixed route fare, which is 85 cents. So we could go to $1.70. We're going to hold it at $1.50. That's the recommendation that the planning committee has in front of the board of directors now. And we've actually taken it to the Special Transportation Advisory Committee, which is a committee that's comprised through an interlocal agreement between Mountain Line and Missoula County. And they advised the Mountain Line board on what they think the best way to handle our specialized transportation needs are, and they're in support of it. They understand the need for the increase. It's unfortunate, and I understand that we will not increase the cost for a person in a mobility device or a paratransit, ADA paratransit qualified individual to use fixed route. It'll still be 35 cents, but the paratransit, the specific dial-a-ride system with the 1-day advance notice, the recommendation is to go to $1.50.
Okay.
And they're putting comment cards out there on the buses, on both fixed route and paratransit buses, and have not been receiving any negative comment. They're completely understanding. We've gone from running 3 paratransit buses to tomorrow we're running 7 paratransit buses. So it's all increased. Fuel costs, manpower.
The other thing I think that's had a real impact on our paratransit costs is our attempt to meet the needs of the community, and we used to have a denial rate of about 7 and 8%, and now our denial rate, or that is passengers who attempt to get a ride and can't, is 0.02%. So we've really worked hard to decrease that, and along with that comes some associated costs.
And one other thing I noticed too is, this is going on the new route schedule. I noticed there's a notice out there that they're planning on doing a little bit of changing on the Route 2 route.
There is. Why don't you explain that, man? You're a little more familiar with that than I am.
The Route 2 has become so successful as far as passenger count wise that we're just we can't meet the time frames on many instances, especially once Russell backs up. So we're eliminating a 2-block area along along Garfield there, heading into the mall, and we'll go directly down Johnson into the mall now instead of the additional 2 blocks. And they've added a roundabout in that area, which makes it a little more difficult getting through also when you get parked cars going up to the corners. So it's just helping all the way around as far as safety and time constraints.
Yeah, that is one thing I have noticed, and I'm kind of supporting this change, but I have noticed the Route 2 is so packed sometimes, it just really slows it down.
Correct.
Seriously
Yeah.
slows it down.
Yes. And with the passenger count naturally being higher, your stops are higher.
Yes.
And each one averages at least 15, 20 seconds. And we want to be on time, we want to be dependable, and we want to be safe.
And I appreciate that because I usually take the Route 2 maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and just to get out and towards that way, and it really does help to make it run a little smoother. I mean, it's annoying when you have all these people on board and the bus is going slow and you're running late for your appointments or whatever.
Which is why we added the additional service on those routes to try and decrease some of the ridership on certain, just having one bus per hour. We went every half hour now and tried to decrease the ridership per bus itself.
Yes,
But
because
the ridership on the route is just...
Yeah, what that
it's
really
enormous.
created was
It's
more
enormous.
people that really illustrate the point that a scheduleless system, or a system where you don't have to be confined by a bus ride every hour, works so much better that everybody can use it. And so we added the 6s and the 2s in order to decrease the number of standing room only buses, but instead it caught on so good that now the buses are packed, and we've met with the board of directors, who's established some priorities for service expansion in the next couple of years. Number one is to get some kind of service going out in the expressway North Reserve area, and maybe deadhead at the airport and then come back into town, tie up with the Route 3 and the Route 2, because there's a lot of requests for service in that area. Their second priority is to further increase the midday service, to beef it up some more, which will mean most likely adding more Route 2, so that sooner or later you know every bus isn't at capacity as it runs through that area. And then the third thing they've identified as a possibility for expansion for our system, it's not necessarily within the Missoula Urban Transportation District, but is to go to outlying communities and seek funding from the state to maybe provide some commuter fixed route service to Frenchtown, possibly Clinton, and possibly Lolo. And so those are some other things that we're looking at doing.
I've noticed some of the new Gillig buses that are talking buses are out in service now. There's usually about 2 to 3 of them out during the days. Do they have any plans for putting those out regularly anytime soon, or all 5 of them anytime soon?
Well, with any new piece of equipment, you certainly want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it before you base 25% of your fleet operations on using that equipment exclusively. So as we get some of the kinks worked out, as you know, they've had some problems with the GPS system, and some of the programming that came from California to Montana didn't acclimate itself quite as well as the engine did, let's say. So we're trying to get those kinks worked out. When we're comfortable with putting all of that equipment out there without having an impact on our ability to provide safe and timely service, then you'll see them all the time. Right now we're just kind of in the working them into the system as much as we can.
There's days I see the new 35-foot Gillig buses, which, by the way, I have to mention and bring into effect, they are 6 inches wider than the other Gillig buses that do not have the talking system. I've seen them out sometimes in the morning through the afternoon, and then they'll go back to the bus barn and they won't be out for the rest of the evening.
Well, you're riding the bus all the time. That's what's good. I'm telling you, we'll get them out there. You just got to give us a chance to work them into the system.
And I understand that. I've just noticed they're not out in
I think
service.
you like that ride better than the old one.
They are wonderful buses. I admit, it's a smoother riding bus. It's a quieter ride, and the announcement system does help. And it is disappointing because right now I think on 2 of them, I think 307 and 309, both the GPS announcement systems are out of use right now because of, like you said, the programming complications.
Well, I'm sure you're not as disappointed as the operator that has to drive that bus.
Yes.
Who got relieved of something he has to do according to the ADA, and now he's back to doing it. So we'll get it worked out.
Okay.
Before we close, though, I want to bring up one other thing that you see happening in the university area in the structure of our system, and that is the frequency of service you see around the University of Montana campus, and with the BioBus system that the University of Montana's initiated through their park and ride at Dornblazer and Lewis and Clark Housing and over on the east side of town. And what you'll see if you're out on Arthur Avenue is a bus going by every 15 minutes. And that's really what our goal is to create that throughout town. And the really nice thing about the Lewis and Clark housing area is the Missoula Valley TMA partnered up with the University of Montana, the Downtown Association, the Mountain Line, the Missoula Parking Commission, and together we built a park and ride there that has 600 parking spots in it that anybody in the public can use to ride free. Your ride downtown from there is free. It's a fare-free bus stop. There are several Missoula Valley Transportation Management Association van pools that pulse out of there. It's storage for their equipment. If you're interested in carpooling, if you're interested in van pooling, or you want to know more about the Mountain Line park and ride system or our pass program that we have through the Missoula Downtown Association, make sure you stop in the office there. Look for Lynn. If you can't find some help there, give us a call over at our office at 543-8386 or get a hold of Missoula in Motion. Beth at Missoula in Motion is also a key element. Missoula in Motion is kind of a commuter club that's been formed to advocate for using bus, bicycle, pedestrian, van pooling, carpooling to get back and forth to work, to alleviate, you know, some of the vehicle miles traveled here in the Missoula Valley. And the real key for Mountain Line is to be a partner in maintaining the quality of life here in Missoula. That's what we're about. Most of the people moved here, certainly not because of the low cost of housing, and I don't think because of the outrageous wages or the balance between the two. I think they like the area. I think they like the economic structure that allows them to live here. But more importantly is the quality of life. And we're up against some real air quality issues that are going to come up in the next 4 to 5 years. The changing to 2.5 particulate for the PM requirements. We want to make sure we're part of that throughout the whole valley, the Five Valley area, and we want to be partners with the other agencies that are.
One thing I wanted to mention and bring up that I've noticed with the ASUM program you guys have been able to do, and I'm not sure if this is the ASUM program, but I've noticed at certain spots along the university route you guys have been able to come up with a program that allows free rides at certain stops.
That's because really of the passenger load, of the fact that we want you to be able to get on and off the bus. We want everybody to operate on time. And it isn't important to us whether or not you use the ASUM buses or Mountain Line buses or the van pool or carpool or ride a bike. The important thing is that we build an infrastructure that if you choose not to drive, you have a seamless transportation system that you can use.
And if you look at peak hours, all of the buses are full. The university bus is full, we're full, they're all full. And the other thing I'd like to add as far as that Lewis and Clark area is get used to it. We use it for out to lunch, we use it for farmers market, we use it for our fare shuttles. It's a good area to use for the park and ride system.
That's all I got for today. I hope that brings you up to date on what's been happening. You're a great customer. We appreciate you taking the bus all the time. And we hope it rubs off on all your friends and everybody else that watches this program. We encourage you to get on our website. There's an opportunity there for you to get a free ride pass if you do a little surfing on our website and come and try out our system.
And I strongly encourage everybody who's watching this program today, take the bus, help Mountain Line to grow more, make it a better system, make it a better program, and you guys keep up the good work.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Appreciate
for coming
it.
down.